going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Winners Win podcast presented by iKon Boats. Today we're joined by two college anglers from Tennessee Tech University. They're the most recent Bassmaster College champions on stop number 2 on Douglas Lake. We have Heins and Hunter Slone. How are you guys doing today?
Good, man. You can't beat springtime in Middle Tennessee. Can't complain.
Yeah, of course. Nope. I really appreciate you guys hopping on here. It'll be super fun. So first of all, just congrats on the win. I mean, that has to feel super good. From what I saw, it was your guys' first major win, which has to be an awesome feeling fishing nationally and getting that win for you guys.
Oh, yeah, for sure, especially because that's the first major win that Tennessee Tech has really ever had in general as a team. So it was definitely big momentum.
Right. I can see that. I want to talk about your team here in a second, but just for those who don't know who you are, if you guys could just introduce yourselves, tell me a little bit about where you're from, your home lake, maybe what grade you're in, and then I'd like to ask everybody, if you could only fish with one technique for the rest of your life, what would that be?
I'm Harrison Hines. I'm from Knoxville. My home lake is Fort Loudon. And I ended up going to Pellissippi Community College over there for 2 years before transferring here to Tech. And I've loved Tech, a lot. It's just so central to all these lakes around here. You can be really anywhere you want in a reasonable amount of time. One technique, I would probably choose flipping a beaver, getting up shallow, flipping hardwood, anything that I can flip. If I had to do one thing for the rest of my life, it would definitely be flipping a beaver.
My name's Hunter Slone. I'm a sophomore at Tennessee Tech. My home lake, Center Hill. I've fished Center Hill my whole life. One technique that I'd stick with is probably throwing a big bait. I like throwing mag drafts and really getting into glide baits. I'm really hoping to do that this year, but mag draft is definitely one of my favorite techniques, and you just can't beat it.
It's really hard to beat both those techniques, getting up shallow and flipping, or throwing those big baits. Once you get that bite, it pays off, and just locking that in your hand all day, it's super fun. So kind of back to your team, you guys mentioned you guys obviously go to Tennessee Tech. So just kind of talk to me a little bit about how many teams do you guys have? Do you have a coach? Are you guys funded, or are you guys all self-funded? Just a little bit, bring a little bit of light into how it truly works in the college scene.
Yeah, so like about 5 years ago, we had a great team. Samuel Vandergriff and Jacob Woods, they top 10'd everything, made a lot of national championship runs, and we had a lot of very good anglers back then. Our club was probably, over 20 people, even 30, dating back 5 years ago. And it's kind of just bad timing because during those times, it was mostly seniors and juniors. And, once they graduated, we just didn't have a lot of people come back into the school. And as you guys know, you've got to have a boat to fish these tournaments and stuff. So, that's a major requirement that we didn't have. We had a lot of people wanted to fish and couldn't, with the boat situation. And we're kind of in a rebuild phase right now. We've got, I'd say, 4 boats competing. And it's a real close team. Everybody's good buddies tonight. We're actually having a little pizza party tonight for the Vols game. Everybody's coming over here. So we're definitely working on rebuilding, but we are really excited for what we have already.
Yeah, that's super cool. So do you guys get any funding from the school, or are you guys all self-funded?
It's self-funded. So our new deal is what we come up with about 2 years ago is however many sponsorships you get in, we've got like 500,000, 1,500. Whatever you bring in, jerseys or your sponsorship for the jerseys and such, that's the money you will be getting reimbursed for gas, hotel, mainly those 2 things.
Okay, that's cool. That's kind of similar how we do it here at Ohio State. We're not funded by any sort by the school either, but we have a couple more boats than you guys. We have probably 9 boats right now, but still similar situation, all self-funded. Kind of have to get all of our own funding, and that's definitely something I think a lot of people don't really understand about the college scene. They think that you can just go fish all these big national tournaments on the school's dime and swipe their card at the gas pump. And as you guys know, with being another self-funded program, it's a lot more difficult than that to be able to get through all your schoolwork, work your job because it's expensive to fish all those, and still make it there and compete with all those guys that are in a funded program. Is something that's really impressive that you guys were able to do. You obviously just won that tournament at Douglas. Do you have a new sense of confidence for the year, and does that kind of take a little bit of weight off your shoulders to qualify for the national championship this early in the season?
Oh yeah, for sure. So I was talking to Harrison earlier, and I'm actually fishing 2 tournaments this weekend. They're not college tournaments, but I was telling him going into just these tournaments, I have so much confidence that I'm going to win these tournaments. Usually when I went to a tournament, I was just hoping to get a check or run by a couple good fish. But now in these few tournaments and I'm fishing, it's like I don't see nothing else but winning, and because I've proved to myself that we are more than capable of doing that. So even when I'm just been fun fishing, it's just proved to a whole nother level of confidence to being able to catch good fish.
Right. And as you guys know, confidence is huge in the fishing
Oh
industry, and
yeah.
hopefully being able to build off that in your guys' coming tournaments. So what do you guys have? I know you said you have tournaments this weekend that aren't college tournaments, but what does your schedule look like for the rest of the season college-wise? I know you have the national championship coming up for Bassmaster. What else do you have?
We have the Governor's Cup next week, which is pretty much the Tennessee State Championship for all the colleges in Tennessee. We have that next week, and then I think we're going to go to the Hartwell Slam in April, and then I can't think of any. What we fishing any more, Harrison, or is it
Uh,
the
the National
Natty after that?
Collegiate Pickwick about May 20 or a little bit earlier than that, and yeah, that'll be the last one.
Yeah, that should be a fun one. They did that like 2 years ago at Pickwick that same time of year, and
Mm-hmm.
they smashed them.
Oh yeah.
That should be a really fun one for you guys. Being your first major win, does that have any like deeper meaning to you guys since it's the first one? I know that first one will always be special to you guys.
It does for me for sure. You know, for I don't know, probably since even last year, but really at the beginning of this year, I've been really trying to prove to myself that I can fish, and not necessarily for me to prove myself, but for my relationship with God and what He wants me. If He has a future with me in fishing, and leading up to the tournament, I just really praying for it, and that if He wants us to win one of these tournaments upcoming, that He's going to do it, because to be honest, I was worried more about money for tournaments even after Douglas to fish. And winning that tournament just proves to me that God wants me to have a path because not only winning the tournament just for that, but it's going to help fund for other tournaments in the future for this year. So it definitely has a deeper meaning than just winning in that sense.
Yeah, that's super cool. And being able to connect it on that level and then get that first major win under your belt to hopefully continue rolling that for the rest of the season is
Mm-hmm.
something super cool. Have you guys been to Lake Hartwell before where the national championship will be?
Yeah.
We've both been twice.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to be excited for that one to be able to get back. And
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll have. We've never done great there, but we've also never really committed to the scope game there. We kind of like to run up the river and gamble. But in August, I mean, both of them could play, so I guess we'll see.
yeah, of course. I mean, that should be a fun one. And you get so many good anglers fishing that'll be something definitely to look forward to. So back into your tournament on Douglas. You guys are obviously from Tennessee, so an in-state tournament. What did your practice look like before you even got to the boat ramp? Like your pre-practice, was there a lot of map studying, a lot of YouTube videos? Have you been to the lake a bunch of times before? Just kind of walk me through how that looked.
Yeah, so I grew up on Fort Loudon, so I've been to Douglas like a handful of times. But the major thing there was it was 35 foot down, and I had never been there, that low, that early in March. And we pretty much committed to throwing a trap and not really as much map study, but we would run the long creeks, the ones that got shallower quicker and went further back. Um, we pretty much just ran those and threw a red trap and a spinner bait, and we could catch fish, 2 pounders all day. And we just figured that if we kept on running that, we could run into a 5 pounder with all 2 pounders, and it would be enough to qualify. But with so many people doing the same thing, everybody's throwing a red trap, everybody's throwing a red crankbait. We kind of were looking for other options on day 2 of practice.
Right, for sure. So it was when you went into practice too, like actual practice, were you looking for areas that were less pressured? Is that your guys' kind of style, or did you want to get into a pressured area or like a community hole type place and outfish the people around you?
It was kind of more of outfish because we figured this out on day 1 of practice. A lot of teams, weren't going far back enough. I guess maybe teams that don't fish Tennessee a lot, like these fish in early March get so shallow, it's crazy. You can't even see their back. You would think you would be able to, how shallow they're sitting. And there'd be several times where we'd go into a back of a pocket and you'd have 2, boats on each side, and they would stop with like another 50 yards to go in the back of the pocket. And we would just keep going back, and they would kind of be grouped up right there in the very far back. And you could just fish and catch fish every, 20 minutes or so.
Did the lake being so far down, like you said, 35 feet down is crazy. I mean, we were there. We went to Cherokee last year for the Bass College tournament, and it was low, but not 35 feet. That's nuts. Did that affect what you guys wanted to fish in practice? I mean, it had to because half the stuff's out of the water, but.
Oh yeah, it for sure did. But actually, as the tournament going, it raised up a little, and actually that's how we won the tournament because we found a place that had no pressure because of the water actually raising up. But like you said, with it being so low, you couldn't even like do map studies unless you had to put it all the way down. And so it definitely affected it because you'd go into a creek that would usually go another 200 or 300 yards back, and it would just be completely out of the water. So it definitely affected some of the areas we wanted to fish.
Yeah, I believe it. Like I said, I mean that's super low. Why do the lakes get so low? Did they drain them for? I don't know.
It's
Why.
4 foot is the idea, but you wouldn't think that 2 tsunamis could raise 35-foot water up.
That's what I figured. It was something like a winter pool, but I didn't know that they did it so far down. Because, like I said, at Cherokee last year, I think it was 15 or 20 feet low, and I was just like, "This is nuts. I've never seen anything like it. Like all the banks are just straight pea gravel or just chunk rock. You can't even. It was just crazy."
Yeah, we said it was like fishing on Mars. That's what it looks like.
That's what it looks like for real.
Yeah.
How many days did you guys practice for, Douglas?
A day and a half. So we had the Tuesday and a half a day Wednesday before the tournament. So
okay. So your first day of practice, is that when you kind of got keyed in on the creek deal, or was that something more on that half day?
No, it was. We definitely kind of got keyed on it on the first day. About midway through the first day, Harrison caught a really good one on a trap, and that's when we started, fishing that and running it. And all of a sudden, we got a pattern with that, especially on the first day. And then we tried to run it on the second day, which it didn't go super good on the second day, just because we was kind of running out of the big long creeks.
Right. So after practice, how were you feeling? Like you're sitting there on tournament morning. Do you think you have a chance to win, or are you just kind of hoping that what you found is going to be good and you're just going to milk your areas and pray at that point?
So on day 2, towards the end of practice, it was probably because we had to be off the water by 1:30, and it was like 10 or 11 o'clock. The marina that was just the closest marina from the ramp. We love fishing marinas. I mean, me and Hunter both love. It just fits our style perfect. And I even remember talking to Sloan. I was like, this is a winning spot right here because it hadn't got any pressure. And the only way to get in this marina was to go around the back side of it. And we tried to on that second day of practice, and I bottomed out, but it was very, very close. And, looked on the TVA app and noticed that the water was coming up like 1.5 feet, like the overnight. And then the next night it was coming up another 1.5 feet. So we pretty much said, hey, let's just throw what we've got out the window at first, and we're going to go start in this marina because we know by the time, in the morning we can get in there. And so we started day 1 of the tournament in there, and we hadn't practiced it yet, and tried fishing in the back and stuff. And that's kind of when we run into our pattern of skipping the boat docks.
That's super cool to make that key adjustment, even coming from catching some quality fish in those creeks in practice to just making that game time decision to scrap that and fish that marina. Were you saying it doesn't have pressure just because of how low the water was? Like you said, guys couldn't get back there, and then no one fished it on tournament day just because they couldn't in practice, and it came up overnight?
Right, yeah.
Huh. So you ended up, like you said, day 1, you started on those marina docks. Kind of walk me through your day 1 of the tournament. How did that end up playing out?
So we started there, and I mean, what do you think, Hunter? How long did we fish there? Till noon, maybe?
Yeah, I say definitely noon because I know we at least hit the docks 2 or 3 times before we left. But around noon we picked up and tried to go run our trap pattern.
And at that point, we had 13-10. We had already had all our fish by. But we had our limit day 1 by like 9:30, and that was the same 5 fish we never able to cull them. Caught 2 or 3 ones that were close to culling but didn't. And like he said, we ran other stuff, trying to find something for the next day, worrying that marina bite could go over, easily. And we ended up coming back on day 1 in that marina, and we thought with the sun high and everything, it was bluebirds. And people have been saying that their bite really got better, around 2 o'clock. So we went back in there, and we did not cull anymore on day 1. I'm a little shocked about that. We really thought we were going to catch them in those docks more, but we did all our damage by 9:30 on day 1.
Okay, so if I have it right, you guys were sitting at 19th place after day 1 out of 250 boats, full field.
Yeah.
So you're in the natty cut at that point, but know that you left a little bit on the table for the win. So you're feeling pretty good. But I've talked to a lot of high schoolers recently, and they obviously have the 1-day tournaments, whereas a 2-day tournament is a totally different ball game. Because like you said, you're worried about, are your fish gone? Do you have to go run your trap pattern at that point? Did you catch all the fish out of the marina?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure not all the fish, obviously, but you know what I mean. So how many fish did you end up catching on day one? I know you said you caught 5 you brought to weigh in, but did you end up catching a lot of fish that day, or?
No, not really. We caught those 5 fish, and I think we might have caught 2 more fish all day, but couldn't ever cull. And for us, when that sun came out, it just, I don't know, we couldn't get another bite the rest of the day. So we only had, I think it was 7 bites all all first day. Never lost any fish. We fished clean, so just those first few fish.
That's good. What'd you guys end up catching them on that first day?
Mostly a chatterbait.
It was all jack, and I think you caught one, the big one, that day.
Yeah, because those
Okay.
spinnerbait and a chatterbait.
Gotcha. So then you're looking at day 2. Like you said, you're sitting in 19th place. Is the first place you run right back to, is that marina?
Oh yeah, that's where we start out. Day 2, and we never even left the marina. We decided that throughout day 2 that we didn't need to leave the marina. We noticed that the fish just kept reloading in the marina. It just seemed like every about 30, 45 minutes when we'd come back through and fish it, we'd get another bite. I really think those fish were out in the middle roaming around, and we seen people try to scope them out towards the middle. And I think as the day would go on, those fish would move back into that pocket and get under that marina, trying to eventually pull up shallow, and that's when we just catch them as they just reload into that marina.
Right. So a lot of guys talk about how a lot of shallow fish end up being residential, except for around the spawn. You can get a lot of transitional fish. Do you think that marina with that water coming up was just a really good place for them to end up transitioning toward the bank and toward eventually spawning? And that's why it was reloading so well?
I mean, yeah, I could see that. I say there's definitely both, because in a marina, I feel like there's always residential fish. I've noticed,
Right.
as I fish, that it don't matter what time of year it is, there's always going to be fish in marinas. But I guarantee that there's definitely a few fish that was transitioning just into a pocket, and because there's a lot of bait back there too, that they were just following the bait, finding that marina, and just hunkering down in the structure that they could, especially with those fish feeling that pressure out towards the mouth of the pocket that marina was sitting in, feeling that pressure and going to somewhere that was not very pressured. I guarantee you there's something to probably do with that.
I could definitely see that. Like you said, the pressure kind of moving them a little bit, especially with that water coming up and giving them somewhere else to go that no one else was fishing. Did you catch them on chatterbaits and spinnerbaits again day 2?
Yeah, that's what we caught most of our fish on day 2. I think I caught 2 on a spinnerbait, ended up calling 1 on the spinnerbait, and the rest was a chatterbait.
Okay. What color, what trailer were you throwing? What was your rod reel line setup for that?
It was the shad, the white with the gray in it. I can't think. And then the trailer was a spunk shad, the one with it's got a white belly but kind of a brown back, kind of a dark back color.
Yeah, that's cool. What about your spinnerbait? Was that similar?
So I actually would switch up spinnerbaits throughout the day. I started out, I was throwing a Strike King spinnerbait. I think it was a 3/8. I think I was throwing a real light one starting off with double Colorado blades because the water was kind of muddy. And then throughout the day, I switched to a heavier one. I was wanting to try to get down there below that dock. So there's a bar we was trying to hit in those marinas that we, every time we bounced off that bars when we get a bite. And I wanted to try something a little heavier to get down there. And I think it was a Nicholas spinnerbait. It was a chartreuse and white one. I ended up catching a couple on it.
Okay, that's what I was just about to ask. Were there any key adjustments you guys had to make with your cast, or how far you skipped back there? Or, I know you just mentioned that bar. Do you think that hitting that bar and bouncing your spinnerbait, chatterbait, the blades and everything bouncing off that bar really triggered your bites?
Oh, 100%. I necessarily couldn't with the spinnerbait. For some reason, I wouldn't bump it off the bar. I would hit the dock, and when it'd flutter, I'd get my bites with it. But for a spinnerbait or a chatterbait, if you didn't hit the bar, most likely you wasn't getting a bite. There's a couple fish that you could tell were just sitting under the walkway, because some of the docks didn't have the bar, but you just catch them out from where that the walkways or on the dock, the floating docks.
So you guys had 18-10, it looks like, on day 2. A much better day. I mean, 13-10 was obviously 19th place, so you guys did really well on day 1, but day 2, you guys knocked it out of the park. That was a big bag. What was your big bass for the day?
Day two was 5:10. I caught that fish on the last cast. I skipped up under this. It was a pontoon, but it was a houseboat at the same time. Like it had a hollow middle, and to be honest, we didn't know it was hollow until 30 minutes into the last day. We made a pass through, and I said it looked like that hollow. And our last pass through, I skipped all the way up in there. For some reason, I hadn't made a good cast the first 2 days of the tournament, and for some reason, that last cast, I got it way back up in there. And I ate about 3 cranks, and that fish ate it.
That's crazy. 5:10 on Douglas to end up sealing the deal if your tournament had to feel pretty dang good on that last cast.
Oh yeah, for sure. We was going absolute crazy. I guarantee you. So there's a couple boats in that pocket that had found that marine at that point, and I guarantee everyone in the 100-yard radius heard us screaming and yelling because it was just crazy. It was amazing.
I don't blame you. Did you guys know you had it won then when you caught that fish, or have an idea?
I didn't. I didn't realize that fish was that big. I only thought it was 4 something. So I thought we had about 16, maybe 17 pounds going up to the scales. And when it said 18.10 when we put it up on there, I was honestly shocked because I didn't know we was going to take the lead at that point. Because I think we had to have 18.4 to take the lead, so I didn't really think it was going to be close, And so that's for me. I think we had a clue of taking the lead or a shot.
Yeah, that had to feel really cool. And getting to win one of those tournaments has to be so cool. Like, there's so many guys that want to do that, and that's such a stout field of college guys. And I think a lot of them fly under the radar for how good they really are. And then you see them go out and fish the opens. I mean, you have the Easton Fothergills and the Tucker Smiths, and you have Hayden Marbit just winning that Toyota Series. You have, Drew Gill in the Bass Pro Tour while he's still in college, and all of them coming through the college series. And I think it really builds a really well-rounded angler by the end of it. So getting to come out on top has to be a super good feeling.
Oh, for sure. And I think it goes back to the confidence thing. Like, some of these anglers, for me, I feel like I'm a pretty decent angler, but nobody ever knew who I was until I won this tournament. And from now on, I'm going to be fishing with that confidence from winning the tournament, So it's definitely one of those things. Like, once you win something, you're going to keep moving on with it, and people will know who you are and all that.
Yeah, of course. It's definitely almost like a platform or foundation to start the rest of your fishing career off of that, which is something that'll be super cool for both of you guys.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Was this definitely your guys' most memorable tournament to date?
I'd say so, for sure. Just the way it happened was so cool, to catch your big fish on the last cast. And that it was the tournament of ounces. So, if we don't catch that, we'd probably have the same day as day one or about 14. Well, we had about 15 pounds or something like that. But, yeah, it's just the way that happened and how, we had to come in early, too, because my boat died. We had sat there in that marina all day, and I had everything running. I saw the nav lights going, aerators, all that. And the boat died. Actually, Hunter asked me what the water temperature was, and I'm very fortunate he asked that because I went back there and turned on my graph, and it wouldn't turn on. So then we had to get jumped off. Called the tournament director, and he let us use the marina's jump box, but the aerators didn't cut back on. I forgot to turn them on. It was kind of late in the day. So when he caught that big one, we had one that was really struggling because the aerator wasn't on, and we had to go straight in to weigh in. I poured my whole bottle of juice in that live well, and the line the line for the bags is so long. I mean, it took Hunter probably every bit of 30 minutes, which is crazy. They need to get that bag thing figured out. I mean, that's just unbelievable. But I was just sitting there, holding him at the bottom upright for 30 minutes and all that juice in there, and by God, he was alive, because if he wasn't, then it would have been we'd have lost by 1 ounce.
Really?
Yeah.
So if that fish was dead, it would have been 1 ounce loss.
We won by 7 ounces, and a penalty was 8 ounces, half pound.
Yeah.
So
that's crazy.
Very stressful.
Yeah, like you said, those bag lines are always crazy long. Like, getting back into it, weigh in is just like nuts, especially if you're not at the very beginning of the flight. I mean, like, you get back, and I swear, like you said, you're sitting there for 30 minutes, like an hour waiting to get up on stage. I'm like, dude.
For sure.
I have to ask, too. So you guys obviously caught a majority or all of your weight in that one marina in a one area. When I was fishing Cherokee last year, similar, I mean, it was a couple weeks. There was this last week of March. We ended up catching all of our fish out of one. It was like a back of a pocket at a drain. Is that something that you kind of see in that Tennessee region where it's like you end up finding a lot of these fish really grouped up that time of year? It kind of lock something in your hand and stay in that area, or is it more? Do you guys run a lot of patterns there too that time of year?
I think your big bags is that case. You run into them all grouped up for sure. And I mean, you can run patterns forever, but you kind of just catching fish and hoping you run into a big one instead of, I like to just cover as much water as I can. And once you get bit, good quality, there's usually that same caliber of fish nearby.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just didn't know since, like you said, you guys obviously just won that tournament in a very similar area in the same spot all day, essentially. And I was, Cherokee and Douglas are right next to each other, as you guys know. So I was like, didn't know if there was a pattern to that or if it just happened to be that way. Talk to me, guys, each of you, how you got into fishing, when you guys started fishing tournaments.
I started fishing, I mean, just fishing the second I could ever hold a rod for sure. And I started fishing wildcats, Tuesday, Thursday nighters in high school. I was big into sports. And once I started fishing, I got my first bass boat. Sports kind of took a back seat to that. All I wanted to do was go fishing and not go to football practice or just nothing like that. Just keep fishing and fishing. So yeah, I mean those Tuesdays and Thursday nighters and all those tournaments on Fort Loudon is definitely what got me started into it. And everybody knows if you're a fisherman, once it's in your blood, it's not going to ever come out. You're going to fish until you can't hold a rod anymore. So I'm blessed to be in that situation.
For me, I mean, I fished some like rivers and stuff out around my house at a early age. I'd go wade fishing with my dad and stuff like that. But I actually started tournament fishing when I was in sixth grade. I have one of my buddies. He actually fishes for KCU. His name's Elijah Kelly. Me and him started fishing tournaments in sixth grade and fished through our senior year of high school. So I've had a lot of experience with tournament fishing, and that's definitely helped a lot because fishing just it don't matter the size of tournaments, but just the fish in a tournament style, it gets your mind set in a whole different way than just fun fishing. You're trying to beat that bell, try to catch the five fish before you have to go weigh in. So starting, I started at a very young age doing that, so it really, I think, helped.
Right, and that's to feel even better for both of you guys starting so young and getting all the way to this point, getting that major win under your belt just has to be even more special than someone who started not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys each had like one piece of advice to give to high school anglers, junior anglers, or even like younger college anglers, just on getting started, getting that confidence, and getting to the point where you feel like you can compete with these guys, what do you think that would be?
I think the first thing is if you want to be the best, you have to fish as much as you possibly can, because if you're not, somebody else is out there fishing, and they're getting better at casting, getting better at making adjustments, getting better at their forward facing sonar. So it's definitely the first thing is if you really want to go pro, it just matters how much you want it. But if you want to be at the very top, you got to fish every chance you can get. You got to put the sports to the side. You got to put other stuff that you might not want to aside and just fish as much as you possibly can. But in another avenue of that is with forward facing sonar, you got to be willing to adapt and do techniques that you don't like as much. I mean, I know a lot of guys aren't big fans of this forward facing sonar deal, but myself included, I'd rather go to the bank and just, go fun fish the way I like to do it. But if you're going to want to compete, you've got to adapt and do the method is working right now.
For sure. I think another thing that helped me as I got, older and learned how to fish more is fishing different lakes. Time on the water definitely helps, but throughout, when I started tournament fishing sixth grade, we just wasn't fishing Center Hill and our local rivers. We went to all kinds of lakes in Tennessee and went to the national championships. I've been from Wisconsin to Arkansas fishing tournaments, and fishing every single different lake is something that has really helped me, and I know it helps other people. And I think that's why there's a lot of good anglers coming out of college, is because fishing these Lunker and Legends trails, you're fishing all kinds of different fisheries, that you wouldn't be fishing if you're just fishing local tournaments. And so that's another thing I think that really can help you, is just fishing different places, different lakes.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, one thing that real quick is I think a lot of people fish with so much stress under their belt. Like, you go out in the tournament, you've practiced for 5 days, and if you don't have 15 pounds by 9 o'clock, most people just absolutely can't deal with it. And they'll just start running new stuff or whatnot. And That's one thing I took away from this last tournament, Douglas, is me and Hunter just fished so freely, just, having fun doing it. It kind of helped at the spot we were at. We could just go back and forth on it. But, cutting up and having fun fishing is one of the main ways to have a really good bag, I think.
And, I've heard that from a lot of guys that end up doing really well is just being able to really fish free, like you said, get away from that stress of the tournament, even though you obviously want to do well and put that pressure on yourself, be able to handle that pressure in a way where you can just open up and go fishing. And it seems that way almost works out better. A lot of guys try to really dial it in and practice and find, okay, if I go to this exact spot with this exact bait, I can catch them this exact way. And everyone knows them. They're fish, they're living, they swim wherever they want to go. And being able to fish, like you said, freely definitely seems to be like a common denominator of a lot of guys that end up winning these big tournaments. It's just those key adjustments on the fly that people are able to make and learn. And hopefully now with that confidence that you guys have from winning this one, you can kind of carry that more free feeling going into more tournaments. And I feel like that's almost like a key to continue that success and being so consistent. What are your guys' future plans? Do you plan to stay in the fishing industry? Do you want to try to go pro? What do you guys plan to do after school?
I've always had a dream of going pro, but I don't know how after school's going to be. To be honest, it's really God's plan. It's just like this tournament is. I got to put my trust into Him. If He wants me to fish pro, that He's going to find me a way to fish, all these tournaments. He's going to find a way to get me sponsors. He's going to find a way to get me wherever He wants me to be. If I don't make it pro in fishing, I definitely think I want to be in the fishing industry. God's always kind of told me I've always wanted to kind of start a ministry into fishing. I don't know whether that be I show up to a tournament and give a devotion before tournaments, or I coach a team or something in that way. But I definitely feel like God has got something for me somewhere in the fishing industry, and if not, just somewhere in ministry in general. That's the only two ways I really see my life going, and it's kind of hard for me to really focus on college too much, which I try my hardest to do that. It's because I don't see me truly using a degree in my future. But I think if I push through, it's definitely going to help.
Right, and like you said, doing some sort of ministry too in the fishing industry. I think Ott Defoe and some of those other guys run like that fishing church before the Bass Pro Tour events and all those things on Sundays, which is really cool and something you might be able to incorporate into the college.
For sure.
Scene.
And I've honestly thought about that, and I'm trying to. I mean, I haven't really talked to him about it. I need to get in contact with some people, maybe the tournament director or someone in fishing for that. I know the Bassmaster Elite Series, they have their own chaplain. His name's Chris Wells. I've actually reading a devotion that he's put out right now, and it's really helped me to relate fishing into my life with, in Christ, my relationship with Him, because, I think about fishing a lot and I think about God a lot, and to actually be able to combine those two has really helped me. And I'd really like to be able to do that, especially just with college anglers. I think a lot of people, I think everyone needs to know who God is, but I think a lot of people in fishing don't really truly have that relationship like they can and would like.
Right. I didn't know the Elite Series had their own chaplain, which is something really cool that more people should probably know about. But Harrison, what are your plans after school?
Yeah, so I'm graduating in May. It's coming up real fast, so I'm actively applying. I'd love to stay in the fishing boating industry for sure. Work for somebody like Skeeter, Yamaha, Garmin, iKon. Any of those companies. I feel like working for them. Really wouldn't feel like work because it's something that we're very passionate about, and we obviously get along with the consumers as well in some places like that. And going pro is obviously a dream as well, but in this sport, you got to have so much money. And you can always go pro, whenever you want. You don't have to just go right out of college. You don't have to go be a phenom like, Tucker or any of those guys you mentioned. So I'd really like to take, a couple years, get started in the industry, get my money up enough to where when I'm traveling, I feel comfortable. I'm not stressing over, look, if we don't get a check, we're going to have to stay here until we get some gas money, go back or something like that. So it's definitely like, I'd like to be comfortable first, and then I will take a stab at my dream for sure.
Sounds like a good plan. Before we wrap up here, both of you, do you have any sponsors or socials that you'd like to give a shout out to?
I want to thank Dwayne with Dixie Custom Rods for sure. He's been with me pretty much since I began. Bass Boat Electronics, they've done all the work on my boat. and the East Tennessee Prop Shop. They've sponsored us for a couple years now, and those have been probably our 3 best sponsors.
I'd like to thank Nextcast NC. They've been a really big sponsor this year. They have really showed a lot of support. They're a clothing brand out of North Carolina, right, Harrison? I believe that's yeah.
Yeah.
They've been a very big support. They have showed so much support to the team, and I can't be more than thankful for them this year to jump on and show the support like they have, especially a company not based out of Tennessee. So I'm really thankful for them this year.
Yeah, it definitely helps a lot to have sponsors that support you guys and allow you guys to do what you love. But I really appreciate both of you guys hopping on here today, and hopefully end up getting to talk here soon because you guys won another one.